All right, welcome everybody to a special edition. I was trying to find the CBS. Remember the Christmas holiday special? The CBS thing would spin and hit that
Yeah.
sound, and it comes out special. I wanted to save that for this show, but I couldn't find a good copy of it. The Christmas holidays are upon us. Poor Bob's got to work most Tuesday nights late, and we won't even have a show next week because I've got family coming in town that day. So I won't be able to do a show Christmas week. So I don't know, and Bob, I know at Bayou Blitz, you got Christmas Day on Wednesday or Thursday. Christmas Eve is Wednesday. It's just not a good week for us. Maybe for New Year's, we can try and do this the week before, right before New Year's. I'm pretty sure your hours will go back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're on Wednesday night. Bob, I've had my son guest host. We spent last week talking about how Shough is beginning to look, Tyler Shough's beginning to look like an NFL quarterback. Looks like a long-term starter. The Saints are winning, so they're dropping in the draft rankings. I think they're 7th now in the draft order. But it looks like we don't need a quarterback, which is a good thing. So we went through possible players to draft, positions of need now that we don't have to draft a quarterback. But I want to get your opinion first on Tyler Shough and how he looks and what has impressed you and what kind of things you think he needs to do to take that next step forward.
First, as you know, since you covered the draft with us, Alan,
Mm-hmm.
I was in the minority of people that liked Tyler Shough coming into the draft process. I liked liked what I saw when I analyzed his tape, I liked the pick at 40. And we all said, hey, you couch draft experts, you're not the one making the pick. Kellen Moore identified this as the guy who he believed can run his offense. So based off that and that alone, we should give him the benefit of the doubt. And it's starting to transpire exactly that way. I liked a few things that I've seen from Shough from the start. His poise, his ability to throw accurately when under pressure. We've seen those two things every single week. We're starting to see some progression in his ability to read defenses. He could certainly handle the blitz very well.
Mm-hmm.
I know some of these, chucklehead announcers, like to compare him to Josh Allen. I don't think he's that athletic. I don't think he has those kind of Superman qualities. But I tell you what I do see. I see a little bit of Ben Roethlisberger in him. His ability to throw off, accurately, off platform. That throw he made against the Panthers, for a first down, sidearm ducking underneath of the defender. That's a perfect example of what I mean. You look at what he did in particular. Throughout the second half, the Saints had 217 yards against the Panthers, and Shough threw for 193 of those,
Mm-hmm.
and ran for another 10 or 12. So in other words, he kind of was Superman in the second half. Alvin Kamara is already on the sidelines. You have no offensive line to speak of whatsoever. Devin Neal goes out of the game. Devon Bailey goes out of the game. 4 minutes left. All right, 4 minutes and change left, and you're down by a touchdown. Hey, no problem. He drove the ball 78 yards, tying touchdown. You put him on his own 9-yard line with 57 seconds to go, one timeout. Hey, no problem. I'll drive you down to field goal range. Get that game-winning field goal on the board. And he did that, like you said, he did that by throwing to guys like Kevin Austin, Mason Tipton, Audric Estime out of the backfield.
Yeah.
And Chris Olave coming up big help too. But on those two drives, he's 9 out of 11. I don't count the spike. 9 out of 11 for 127 yards. Those are the kind of things franchise quarterbacks do, people. And yet we've seen this kind of thing from Shough week after week. So, while it's certainly way too early to say he is going to be the face of the franchise for the next decade, let alone even 5 years, it is a great feeling that the Saints at least have checked off quarterback off of their list of needs this coming off season. And okay, we have our quarterback, or we certainly believe that we have our quarterback. Let's build around him and see how good he can really be. With some talent offensively, with a little bit better defense, et cetera. And I think that that's a great feeling.
Well, one of the things that really impressed me, and I talked about it in my Good, Bad, and Ugly, and I'll talk about it again here. Just his ability on that 7-play, 78-yard drive to run a 2-minute offense. And he converted a couple of 3rd and longs. I'm sorry, no, that's a different drive. Never mind. But he was able to avoid 3rd down. That's what I really wanted to say, until the touchdown pass. I mean, it was 11 yards here, 19 yards to the next one, 17 yards. These are not little check downs. These are not little screens and things like that. He was pushing that ball downfield, and for whatever reason, the Panthers went into a shell kind of defense where they are protecting, I guess, against the big play. And, you forgot for a minute that he was a rookie. It's been just veteran type of throws, very poised in a pocket. You talked about that field goal drive. You starting inside your own 10-yard line. You've got one timeout in your pocket, and you are calmly pushing the ball down the field, a screen pass to estimate for like 13 yards, another pass to estimate for 9 yards, just textbook. And then they're getting back up to the line, spiking the ball to kill the clock. He runs that draw play, and the Panther fans are still screaming about this. He runs that draw play. Draws the personal foul, but that draw play, even if he doesn't get hit, he's still going to get up fast enough, kill the clock, maybe with a second left, and they kick the field goal. It'd be a longer field goal, but they kick a field goal. That's tremendous poise for a rookie quarterback. It really, really is, and I think that's probably the thing that's impressed me more than anything else that he's done. 3rd downs, 3rd and longs were death sentences for the offense earlier this year, and he is converting 3rd and 13s. He's converting 3rd and 17s. Vele getting hurts him a little bit because he's really building good chemistry with him. But regardless, he found Kevin Austin. He's throwing catchable balls.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's almost like, God, I hate comparing the Drew Brees because it's not a fair comparison at all for any quarterback. But that was one of the things that Drew Brees had going for him, was he threw catchable balls. And he's throwing these catchable balls right there where the receiver gets them. The defensive back can't make a play on it. And, these guys are pushing the ball down slowly downfield. And that's without a good running game, without like all the things you said. I called it a hospital gauze curtain instead of a steel curtain offensive line because it's so porous, especially between the guards, and he's still able to push the ball and get rid of the ball, make good decisions when it's time to run. He gave up 5 sacks, but, playing on that offensive line for a rookie, I expect sacks.
Yeah.
But he's able to overcome those sacks. Those sacks aren't death sentences. What did you think? They also say the Saints paid off the refs because they avoided all these long penalties. I'm like, really? The Saints and refs? You don't know the history of this franchise well, do you? But the Panther fans were accusing us of paying off the refs. But we had just almost as many penalties as
Yeah.
they did. So I don't know what this payoff was, other than the supposed bad call on roughing the passer. But you can see in the footage, the guy runs in like a guided missile, and it's helmet to helmet. He doesn't try and like lay on top of him or anything like that. He just lowers the helmet and hits him in the head. You don't do that. You can touch him.
I thought, and I've been highly critical of Kellen Moore in so many areas this year, and I stand by those criticisms. But I also said in our post game that I thought that was the best call of Kellen Moore's entire coaching career, because I am convinced that he and Tyler Shough both believed that they were going to get the roughing penalty on that, and that's why they called it. Because the Panthers were just so geeked up. You're naturally going to be geeked up on defense, to bring the guy down quick and hard in those kind of situations. And do the Panthers fans have a gripe to a certain extent? Like if the roles were reversed, I would be yelling and screaming that about Goodell's goons and Goodell wanting this to basically be flag football.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, and this is why Kellen Moore called this play, you can't touch a quarterback now, period, and end of story. And he was pretty convinced that they would get the roughing call. If that play were run back in the 90s, or certainly well before that, that flag would have never been thrown. And I believe if they let the guys play the game, the flag shouldn't be thrown. But the bottom line is, this is Goodell's NFL, folks. That flag is going to get thrown 99.9% of the time. Moore and Shough were banking on it. Shough did a pretty nice job selling it. They moved into easier field goal position for Charlie Smith.
And, when you saw that kick go off, they said Charlie Smith probably could have hit that from 70 yards. It was that strong and that true. In fact, did you see the footage? Somebody took a field level shot. When he kicked that field goal, Charlie Smith turned and pointed and looked at the Panthers bench and just put his arms up like, I got it. That's how confident he was in making that kick. And what I said, the reality of the Panthers fans right now, when we beat them 3 weeks ago in Carolina, I read a lot of the comments from the Panthers fans, and the comments were things like, our coaching staff sucks, our quarterback is too short, he sucks, our front office sucks because our defense is terrible. All we got is Dottle, and they figured out how to shut him down. Once you shut him down, our offense can't do anything. We need more weapons. They need to figure out how to get Ted McMillan more involved in the game. All blah, 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 blah. Ownership sucks. All that. Then they beat the Rams, and the Bucks are falling apart. So they got a good whiff of hopium, and they had 2 weeks of it because they had a bye the following week. So you're believing that maybe you can do something. You beat the best team in the NFC. You're off. The Bucks are falling apart. We can we got 2 games against them. We beat the Saints. We beat the Bucks once. We win the division. So I understand why they're so pissed off.
Yeah.
Because they believed. And man, withdrawal's a bitch. You're going through the DTs right now because you realize your team isn't as good as you thought they were. And your quarterback actually played a really good game. He wasn't that great of a passer, but the coaching staff kind of kept him kind of under wraps. He made more plays with his legs. He had that one great throw right past Quincy Riley, and Riley said, he lost it in the lights and ripped off the visor that he had after that. Riley made a fantastic pass breakup in the end zone to take away another touchdown and make them settle for a field goal. So, there were some plays Carolina had where they thought they had this game won. But, again, going back to who Tyler Shough is and what we're seeing out of him, he just impressed the hell out of me with that. I mean, there's no other way of getting around it. It's we got to see more growth. It can't just be one quarter. We're not Denver. You got to play well for 4 quarters, and he hasn't done that yet. But it looks like we can at least go with him for another year and see what happens. And I feel good about it. I really do. I think these next few games, this one against the Jets this week, will again kind of see how much better is he getting. I don't care if we win all the games. I don't care if we lose 2 or 3 of them, but I want to see more growth out of him as a quarterback. And that's all you can hope for right now. Before, I was just like, man, nothing's going right for this team.
Yeah. And, you and I have been talking, forget training camp. We were talking even before that when the schedule came out, that our goal for this team was that we wanted to see a more competitive team in December than we saw in September, regardless of opponent. And I think that's, I don't think, I know that that's what we're seeing right now. You played more physical than the Buccaneers to come out of there with that win. You swept the Panthers, who, as you put it, they were in their feels. So Carolina was, while not talented, they were playing with some confidence, and you still knocked them down a peg twice. Now, having said that, you lose to either the Jets or the Titans, even with all the injuries that they're dealing with right now. Vele out, Neal out, Kamara out, etc. If you lose to the Jets or the Titans, you, in one single stroke, you just blew up all that momentum that you established.
Yeah.
So I'm like you. I don't care about the record, the season-ending record at this point. I just want to see the continued momentum and continued progression that we've seen from Shough, the other rookies, and this defense is playing really, really well, especially against the pass. Having said that, I mean, the Jets have been, they've had their bags packed since October. So you better curb stomp them. I don't care what kind of roster you're rolling out. If Shough continues to play well, I think that's exactly what you do. And again, this step, another step in the development of a franchise quarterback is, regardless of the roster around you, you beat the teams that you should beat on your schedule, and the Jets would certainly fall in that category.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Jets are on their 3rd quarterback. Brady Cook is going to start. They let a receiver go, Alan Lazard. I think he's the last link to the old Aaron Rodgers Jets. And you're right, they play with very little confidence. It's very easy for them to go into the tank with, here we go again. So, you let these guys hang around, they can come back and get you. But I think, this will be a good game for the secondary to pick off that kid Cook a few times. I mean, here's a good example. People think, although if you listen to the draft analysts or the way the national media had been talking about Shough, Brady Cook and Shough are basically the same kind of quarterback.
Right.
Cook threw 3 interceptions, I think, this past week.
Yeah, 2 the week before.
Yeah. So, we should beat the hell out of this guy defensively. Tennessee, they're scoring more points, but I kind of feel like they're scoring more points against teams that are pretty bad on defense. So, yeah, that's another game you should win. And I think Atlanta, by the time you get to Atlanta, it could be dead men walking, especially if they haven't won anything. It'll be Kirk Cousins again. But, I mean, that coaching staff could be on a death watch again, just like a couple of years ago with Arthur Smith, and they'll quit if the fans turn against them, that they play badly, all that stuff. So Their playoff, they've been eliminated from the playoffs, so the whole thing. So I'm not worried about them. But it's all about us. How well can we play? Does Alvin Kamara come back this week? They said they're gonna hold him out of practice, but they're gonna see how he's responding to treatment, whether or not he can play. If he doesn't play, and I'm kind of leaning towards he's not going to play.
Right.
Your running backs are going to be Hull and Estime. You won't have Vele, so they're going to be relying on Kevin Austin. I don't know if there's any receivers they're going to pull up in the practice squad or not.
No, I mean, I would expect some more reps from Mason Tipton just before we came on the air, because I'm going to have to get to work on this article when we get off of the air. The Saints signed Nyheim Hines officially to the practice squad, but it would not surprise me to see him get a helmet on Sunday if you're right and Kamara doesn't play. And I'm with you. I don't think they chance it. You're eliminated from the playoffs. Kamara's not in a position to stat chase. You really have there's no reason to chance him for greater injury.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be one thing if they needed one more win to win the division or something like that. But yeah, there's really no purpose unless he is fully healthy to put him out there. So that probably means that passing game wise, you can rely a lot on Olave and on Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson's double clutch catch really surprised me because that ball spun up in the air pretty high.
Yeah.
What do you think of Juwan Johnson this year? What kind of year do you think he's having?
Statistically, he's having a really good year. He's going to end up with the type of numbers that this team really hasn't had since Jimmy Graham was traded over a decade ago. They had 1 year of Ben Watson and 1 year of Jared Cook, both of which turned out to be more fakes than the reality. And Juwan statistically is going to have that kind of year. The reality is, and this is why fans hate him, the reality is he's still not even close to the league's top tier tight ends. He's not a Travis Kelce, not a George Kittle, Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid, Dallas Goedert, TJ Hawkinson is another guy I would put up there. He's not in that category.
Trey McBride, yeah.
Juwan has not played consistently enough to be at the top of that next tier down. Juwan's never going to be in that top tier. What I want from Johnson is more consistency. And, you talk about the double clutch catch. He does that a lot. He doesn't have natural hands. He doesn't have those soft hands that Jimmy Graham did or love him or hate him. Jared Cook had really nice hands. Juwan Johnson doesn't have those kind of hands. And that's one of the reasons why he disappears for long stretches and why he doesn't bring in the kind of catches that would have won you the game. I think it was was it San Francisco or Arizona? I don't remember which one.
I think it was Arizona was the one. I think Olave was San Francisco and he was Arizona.
That sounds right. And you could say the same thing. Same thing about Olave that I'm saying about Juwan, by the way. Juwan just doesn't make those kind of plays, which is why he's not in that top tier level. Jordy Hallberg asked me this question yesterday morning. Should the Saints draft a tight end? And I kind of chuckle. I haven't looked hard at the draftable tight ends yet, other than the kid from NC State is an absolute monster that I want to get. But I mean, you and I have been on this mountaintop for 5 years, 5+ years.
Oh yeah.
Screaming to get a tight end, and I relayed that, and I said, but the reality is, the Saints front office and coaching staff, they seem happy with Juwan. So I don't know that we'll see them pursue a tight end. Pittsburgh Steelers are probably Pat Freiermuth is likely going to hit the free agent market. Would love to have Pat Freiermuth in this offense. And I don't think he's going to cost a lot. You give me Pat Freiermuth and Juwan Johnson, I can make that work. But Yeah, Jawan's just a good weapon that Saints fans want and or expect to be a great weapon, and that's probably never going to happen.
Yeah, I point out this a lot. He is an undrafted free agent wide receiver that they converted to a tight end. So he's in the Boo Williams category.
Yeah.
Boo's probably a little bit better of a pass catcher, but he's still a converted wide receiver turned into a tight end. So he's not going to be able to be a Sam Laporta, an Evan Ingram, I just drew a blank on his name, Trey McBride. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be that weapon that is, what are you covering with? Do you cover him with a safety? Do you cover him with a corner? Do you cover him with a linebacker? Because he can just kill you in the seam routes. What he can do, though, is act as a third wide receiver / option route kind of middle of the field guy. Mm-hmm. But you can't target him too much because he is going to have those mental lapses where he just drops a catchable pass. And what's even more frustrating is he'll drop that catchable pass, but make a really difficult catch.
Yeah.
And that's what drives fans crazy. And they look at how much he gets paid. And mm-hmm. I think the reason why they paid him as much as they did was because they weren't planning on drafting a tight end this past year. And they just don't think they're in a position to draft a tight end highly. I don't think they'll be in a position this year to take a tight end in day one or day two. And I don't think there's really anybody in this class that's really at day one. There's no Tyler Warren. There's no there might be a couple of Rondé Gatstons if you can find them, mm-hmm. but not anybody who's a difference maker. So that's why they paid a guy like Juwan Johnson, because it's kind of like go with the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. They've thrown a lot of money at tight ends. Cooks was one. I just drew a blank on this guy's name. The guy
Kobe
Fleener. Somebody else they threw a lot of money at because they thought he would be a good natural pass catcher in the offense, and he turned out not to be that kind of guy. So I don't know where the secret is. They need to prioritize a tight end for sure. They need to prioritize a bunch of offensive weapons.
Yeah.
I'm all about signing a guard in free agency and finding something, a cardboard cutout of Blondie or something to replace Cesar Ruiz, because that dude is killing me right now.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me this the other day, and I remember him in one game where they did play him at center, and he was terrible at that. It's going to cost too much money to cut Cesar Ruiz, but would you move him to backup center behind McCoy?
If it gets him out of the starting lineup, oh, hell yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm with you. I want Cesar Ruiz off my team, but I think it's going to take a sucker to trade for him, because you just have a whopping amount of dead cap money. Because he has restructured his deal, reshuffled mm-hmm. his deal the last 2 years. One of the restructures the Saints have done in recent seasons that have made me angrier, because I know that it was going to paint us in exactly this kind of corner.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you get some guard help this offseason, and you can't find someone to give you, I mean, shit, even a bag of Pez would do. You can't find someone to trade for Cesar Ruiz. Then I suppose it would be beneficial to have that kind of experience for when, unfortunately not if, when Eric McCoy goes down again. It's something. And remember, and you know this, he was a center throughout his collegiate career at Michigan, mm-hmm. an All-American one at that.
Yeah.
So it's always kind of mystified me why they have not tried him back at center more often as McCoy has been hurt through these years, because it's not like he has been a pillar of strength at guard.
No, and I there's a bunch of reasons why he is so bad at guard. He lunges, he puts his head down, his footwork is terrible. All these things, which it mystifies me, because his reputation and his scouting report at Michigan was he didn't give up sacks.
Yeah, and he was a technician.
Yeah. His technique was flawless. And somehow, I don't know if he had his mother make a scouting report. I don't know what it was, but somehow that got out there. And the film as a pro does not match his film from college. I really don't understand why. But you're going to get at least one guard. And my thing is, I would get a left guard, and I become a left-handed team. I'm perfectly willing to be a left-handed team and let Simpkins, Xavier Truss, maybe a guy you draft in day 3, all fight for that round, that right guard position. Did you notice that play that Devin Neal ran when he got his touchdown, and they put Banks and Fuaga on the same side?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a wall coming at you. And I think Fuaga threw his guy into next week. And there was another play where number 11 for the Panthers tried to go up against Fuaga, and Fuaga gave him the 5-finger death punch. And my God, that number 11 just hit the turf. That's all he did. So that's the positives for me in this offensive line. You got your tackles set.
Yeah.
If they can stay healthy, you got 2 bookend tackles. And it's funny because we have these great tackles, but Kellen Moore likes to call inside zone runs so many times. Now, Neal can run them. I give him a lot of credit. And Estime seems to be able to run those things, which tells me we need to draft an inside runner, because this is what we're going to do. But you've got 2 solid outside tackles. I don't understand why we don't run pitch plays or bounce to the outside. We just don't.
I know. I've been screaming about that all year long, because, like you said, this team needs a lot of help throughout the offense. But the tackle spots aren't one of them.
No.
And I know I saw some ridiculous mock draft, out of New Orleans this past week. Yeah, I forget who even did it.
Field Yates.
That's who it was. That that Madden player. Thinking that he could. You just shuffle Fuaga to the inside at guard. And I think he even pointed out that play with Banks. On the same side, Banks being your tackle on that play. Well, and this guy's an idiot anyway. But I mean, he is. He has been for years. But leave Fuaga alone. You finally have your tackles. And these guys. While I don't think either had played over the top well lately, and Fuaga's been dealing with some injuries, there's no doubt that if you could say you crossed off the quarterback box with Tyler Shough, you have your tackle box crossed off with Fuaga and Banks. Finally. So, you could move on to another spot with your first round draft choice. Because they ain't going to draft a guard in the first round. There is no interior lineman that's going to be that good.
No.
And frankly, the ones that have been in the past more often than not have been busts anyway. Just focus on another position. Be happy you got your tackles. And as you said, Kellen Moore, for Christ's sake, realize what you have out there and then start using them.
I've said this several times. It feels like he calls plays for players who are not on the roster.
Yes.
And it's maddening to watch. Because even Neal, when he bounced to the outside, that was his longest run of the day.
Mm-hmm.
was an outside running play. And it just drives me crazy that he does this. And you've got Kamara, who's an outside runner, and you don't run him outside. And when you do, and you get a lot of success, you go right back to the inside run again. And it's like, why? They're not stopping that. But so that leads to a lot of people thinking, I think that most Saints fans are doing mock drafts right now have Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame,
which is a good one,
as the guy they want to pick. Some people are picking a safety in the first round. I don't want that. I realize that the safety they keep talking about, and I just drew a blank on his name because I don't have my draft information in front of me, but he is going to be an elite safety. I get that. But to me, the team, they need offensive weapons. You need a wide receiver who can be the X factor, be the X receiver who is going to be out there getting those passes over the middle, can take the hits. I know some people want to say, well, we'll just put Vele there. I don't think Vele is that guy. But you get a guy with a similar kind of build, younger, a bit more explosion off the line. That's really who you need as your X receiver, you know. And then you can, with Olave, because they're going to end up paying Olave. Mm-hmm. With Olave, you can use him as the Y and a slot receiver.
Yeah.
You know, get him in the matchups because to me, he's playing a lot more like Ted Ginn Jr. did when Ted Ginn Jr. was out there. He likes catching the go routes. He likes catching routes where he's just got to beat one guy and go. And if he has to go where there's traffic, he is going to hit the dirt. And I understand why he does that. If I had that many concussions, I'm not going out there sticking my head out there. I'm not going to be an Eric Martin. I'm not going to be a Joe Horn or, Michael Thomas, Marcus Colston kind of guy. I'm not going to get racked out there. I'm going to go out there and I'm just going to catch the ball and hit the dirt unless I think I can beat something, Hemisphere, I agree with you. I think we need to address the guard spot in free agency. It's not going to be very good, but you can get something better than what you've got.
Yeah.
Edge rusher is always my choice at the top of the draft. Some of my mock drafts I've been seeing kind of have edge rusher in the third round. I don't know if I want to wait that long.
I don't. It's not, and again, like you said, it's not that you can't get one there, but that's always, without exception, one of those positions that the longer you wait, the chances of finding a solid one, let alone a difference maker, go drastically downhill. And hey, Chase Young has played well. Chase Young is playing the best football of his career. Cam Jordan has shown he's still got some football left. But the sands of that hourglass are almost empty.
Yeah.
While I expect Demario Davis to be back next year, I don't expect Cam to be back. And Chase remains one of those. I still stand by my nickname of Mr. Almost. Because he almost makes a lot of plays. You need a guy to finish those. And while I get the love for Jeremiah Love, and I wouldn't be mad at that pick, by the way. I get the love for Downs from Ohio State, and I agree with you. I think he's going to be a very good safety. You got to know where your team lacks the most. This team has a really good secondary. I expect Justin Reed to play better in his second year with the Saints than he did his first. I expect Sanker to kind of hone his instincts in the offs. He's been making a lot of rookie type mistakes. And while neither one of those guys are elite safeties, you can make a lot of plays with that duo. They have made a lot of plays with that duo. You still, as good as the Saints pass defense has been, they're still not getting the quarterback to the ground. So my choice is also edge rusher. And, I know everybody wants, Reese from Ohio State. Reese has only had one really great year. He's been good, but he's only really had one great year. Reuben Baines, you're already seeing the criticisms of him.
T-Rex
Short arms, lack of production.
Yeah.
I wouldn't touch Reuben Baines early in the first round.
No.
I love Kamara. I don't know why more people aren't talking about it. I love Kamara from Indiana. And there's a couple more out there. And look, we'll have plenty of time to talk about individual draft prospects.
Well, and my thing is, I think we need to have sexy picks at the top of the draft for a change, because that's what gets fans excited. And that's why Love is a popular one. That's why the receivers are popular. Edge rushers are popular. Those positions there, that's what's getting everybody's attention. That's what everybody wants to see. And if you get those kind of guys in the first couple of rounds, I think that gets people looking forward to next season and getting excited about going to watch the Saints play, because they want to see these guys who make plays, make the highlights, and that gets them all excited. An offensive lineman doesn't get them excited.
Right.
Safety doesn't really get them excited. Linebacker doesn't get them really excited unless it's going to be a pass rushing linebacker. It's sacks, it's scoring touchdowns, getting big runs, getting weapons for your quarterback that the fans seem to be slowly coming around and getting behind. So, and again, that's what we need to see in these next 3 games. Let's see what some of these other young players can do. Let's see what these other guys are. If there's anybody up there that looks like, hey, you know what? He could maybe be a 4th receiver. He could be a good backup alternative. Like Devin Neal right now, everyone was really praising his pass blocking.
Yeah.
So you feel like, okay, we got somebody with Devin Neal. He can go out there and do some stuff for us. So that, yeah, to me, that's your 3 positions I'm looking at right now: receiver, edge rusher, and running back in the first 2 rounds. And because I think those are your biggest needs as far as weapons. Guard obviously is a huge need, but I think we can spend money in free agency because the NFC South still sucks.
Yeah,
it's clearly amazing. We haven't been relevant in 5 seasons, but no one's taken advantage of this. Yeah, Tampa's won a division 4 straight times. They might win it a 5th time. But does anyone really think they want to fire the coach who's won 4 division titles, might win a 5th one, and they can't wait to get rid of him?
Yep.
They think he's a total idiot, So they win the division, and they're a one and done team in the playoffs. Yeah, Anna, sorry. I had to go and rush tonight because the holidays and stuff, and Bob's schedule's chaotic. So, and even now, I know it's tough for him to hang out in the show as long as he is, but I appreciate him.
Yeah, I'm already on empty.
Yeah.
But and another need, and I know you'll get behind this one because you've been yelling for it. Another need that not enough people are talking about: a big run stuffing tackle in the middle. Gottschalk has played better, but he is still clearly not the answer there. And I know Brockton, the defensive tackle from Texas, has missed the year, but he's not that type of guy. He's more of an inside pass rusher. So you do need a Vita Vea type if you're looking for current comparisons, but I think more along the lines of Casey Hampton, Tony Saragusa, that big fat guy that teams ain't going to run up the middle on you and are going to take up 2 and 3 blockers just by their presence alone. That kind of guy is going to make Brian Bresee a lot better. It's going to make Nathan Shepard a lot better. And those 2 have been playing pretty good ball lately. But you get that space eater in the middle, and then all of a sudden you're forced to single block Bresee or Shepard. One of your edge guys are going to automatically get a single blocker. It's just that kind of guy is not only going to shut down the middle, inside runs, but he's going to open up a lot of opportunities for your other guys as well.
Absolutely. You need somebody to tie up blockers so your linebackers can flow to the backfield. We've already seen things with Stallbird. We've seen some stuff with Stutzman. out there. Stutzman is getting a lot of playing time right now.
Yeah.
He's still not starting over Werner, but he is getting out there. So you need somebody who can go out and have an impact, tie up the middle of that offensive line, just so a Brissy can get out there, or your other edge rusher. If you draft a great edge rusher, it'll make it hard to double team. And when you're talking about being a closer, if you've got an edge rusher that's demanding a lot of attention, the quarterback is going to bootleg away from that edge rusher into Chase Young, who is going to finish plays. He just needs to take better angles. He took some terrible angles. I know you're chasing a chicken like Rocky Balboa was sometimes with a guy like Bryce Young, but at the same time, I think Chase Young is a good opposite piece.
Yes.
For a great edge rusher. And hell, you might be able to snag an edge rusher in free agency, because there's a couple of them out there who I think have kind of reached the end of their shelf life with their current teams. And I'm looking at Thibodeau out there in New York.
Yeah.
Because they're going to fire, they're going to get a new coach, but that new coach's job is going to be able to make something out of their first round draft pick, Andre Carter, this past year. So they're going to need to get somebody out there to light a fire under Carter's butt. And one of the things they're going to do is get rid of his competition. And that's why I think Thibodeau may be available. And that's a guy who may be able to put him in there. You might be able to swap Granderson for Thibodeau and maybe get a better player out of that. I don't know, but just a thought. Just a thought. Bob, who do you think is going to win the NFC South? It looks like nobody wants it.
No, nobody does. I think Tampa Bay still comes out of this. I think they right the ship enough to hold off Carolina, because I think that they are a vastly more talented team than the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
And it looked like Tampa was starting to get healthy. That's why, frankly, I thought the Buccaneers were going to blow the Saints out of the stadium. Because they were getting enough pieces back. They got Bucky Irving back. Mike Evans came back, not against the Saints, but came back against the Falcons, which they lost.
Yeah.
And we know Evans is a security blanket for Baker Mayfield. Who is, he's scattering passes all over the stadium like the Baker Mayfield of old. I think that he rights the ship enough, and the Buccaneers right the ship enough that they hold off the Panthers, and then they get curb stomped in the first round of the playoffs. That's the scenario I see playing out.
Well, the Panthers need to win 2 of the next 3. They need to at least sweep if they sweep the Bucs, they win the division.
Right.
If they split with the Bucs, they have to beat Seattle, and they're going to need Tampa to lose to Miami. And Miami's another team that's dead man walking. They just benched Tua, so it doesn't look good for Carolina if they don't win Sunday. So I agree with you. That Thursday night game, last Thursday night between Tampa and Atlanta, had to have been one of the funniest games I have watched in a long, long time, because the number of stupid decisions that were made in that game. I'm saying, if I was really a fan of either of these teams, I'd really be pissed off. All I did was laugh. You're up 28-14. The Falcons score a touchdown, and they go for 2. Why? Because if you don't get it, then you have to go for 2 just to tie. So take the extra point, be down by 7, and then see what happens. Well, of course, they don't get it both times, but they got the ball back a third time because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers decide to run the clock out by throwing the ball.
Yeah.
and yeah, Ibuka should have caught Ibuka, sorry, should have caught that pass. But at the same time, you have to assume he probably won't. Just run the ball and punt it. Trust your defense to win. He did not trust his defense to win. It was just one stupid decision after another. So they saved the Falcons timeouts in order to get down the field. Then to get to the game-winning field goal, Vita Vea just kind of leisurely strolls off the field, and he gets flagged for 12 men on the field, plus being offsides because he has to cross the line of scrimmage to get to the bench because they're so far down. I was like, oh my God, do these people even know how to play football? What do you do at practice? Because these are incredibly stupid decisions. And yeah, you're right. And I do remember when the NFC East was awful, and they said one of the teams has to, by law, make the playoffs. And that's kind of how I feel about the NFC South right now. And of course, when the NFC East was that bad, we didn't hear about, oh, they should go to seeding. They should go to, because there's going to be a team that's not going to make the playoffs because some garbage team from the NFC South is going to make the playoffs, and it may be Detroit. I don't know. Because the Packers and the Lions are ahead of Detroit right now. Detroit may be the odd man out, especially because the fight is between Seattle and the Rams, who's going to win that division. So you're going to hear a lot of that kind of talk again, and I think it's stupid because it's just that you don't want to have to look at any of these teams in the NFC South because they're bad.
Mm-hmm.
But that, to me, that's the positive about this upcoming offseason. Is this the offseason now that Mickey Loomis should start spending money again and start signing some free agents? Not stupid money. I'm not talking about, signing somebody to stupid contract like a Derek Carr contract, but I'm saying, do you start bringing in free agents and spending money to bring in some free agents because you're now trying to compete for the division?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what we'll see. Because if you're telling us, and of course, the line coming out of Airline Drive, they refuse to even use the word rebuilding, but that's no matter what they want to call it, that's the reality of the situation. Well, when you're rebuilding, one of the first things you need to do is find your quarterback. Well, once you find your quarterback, assuming it's a young guy, and he is, then you have to build the pieces around him. You want to do that through the draft, but you only have so many draft picks. So like you said, you have to avoid doing, spending the stupid money, signing the big flashy name to the ridiculous multi-year deal. That's why you're not going to see the Saints go after a wide receiver if T. Higgins hits the market or something like that. We won't see that. But guard, they're absolutely going to spend for a guard. Would not surprise me if they spent money on a front seven player. Edge rusher only if a Thibodeau and if a Thibodeau hits the market, I would love to see that. That's going to cost you more money, but it's more money for a young player. So it's not a past his prime kind of guy. You see what the Steelers did, how much the Steelers spent in free agency money on defense this offseason. You're not going to see any kind of moves like that. But you will see them pinpoint their areas of need and actually spend some money to try to fill some of those needs.
Yeah, I think the big thing is, you look at a team like New England. The Patriots are making a push. They're one of the top seeds in the AFC. They spent a lot of money this offseason to get some free agents in there. Not a lot of big names. They spent money on quantity players and quality players, but it was what they needed to get better to build around Drake May to make that push because they could see that the AFC East was theirs for the taking.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't worried about the Dolphins. You certainly aren't worried about the Jets. Buffalo's the only team you have to worry about, and Buffalo, and we're seeing it this year. Buffalo they've got a lot of holes on defense, and they're kind of on that fringe of, are they almost at the point of aging out on the current core?
Yeah.
That they need to bring in some younger players, start shedding some of that cap money and going on a mini rebuild because they're trying to win with pretty much the same core. They did a purge of the wide receivers last year, but they still need, in fact, they need an impact receiver. But they're kind of like, this is almost as good as they're going to get with the core that they have, especially the coaches that they have. They're going to have to make some decisions if they don't make it to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
So, and I think New England saw that, and that's why they did what they did. That's kind of the other the quietly big thing that we noticed when we beat the Panthers and the Bucks back to back. We're looking at this going, we can take these teams this division, and that's what you really need to aim for first. How do I beat the teams that are in the division with me? Do I have the players to get to do that? And I think they kind of do right now. So beating Atlanta, that would be an amazing thing to go 4-2 in this division and you only won 5 games or 6 games, but 4 of them came in your division. That'd be impressive as all hell.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that way. But yeah, absolutely. And you get to end your season by again evening up your all-time series with the Falcons. The big battle cry that Atlanta fans have been crutching on this week has been Atlanta's the only NFC South opponent that Tyler Shough has never beaten. Oh my God, you've not seen that?
No, I can't say that.
I have, and I've seen it more than a couple of times.
Oh my God.
I've seen it more than a couple of times, and I'm like, oh my God, this is what you're crutching on right now? I know that this is a sad franchise, but Jesus. And I've seen others already saying, Tyler Shough's already the best quarterback in the NFC South. He's making an argument after just 6 games. I don't think he's better than Baker Mayfield. He's playing better than Mayfield is right now. But I mean, again, if you're looking for the immediate future, you look at Atlanta. Would you rather have Tyler Shough or Michael Penix?
Michael Penix tore his ACL in the good knee. So that's 2 bad knees he's got now. And this is not an insult to Shough at all, but it sure as hell is an insult to the Falcons. That comment is the equivalent of you get to go to McDonald's if you don't shit your pants this week. All week at school. If you don't do that, you get to go to McDonald's on Friday. And that's what they're saying right now. Hey, we didn't shit our pants yet. We haven't lost 2 of the seats, so we'll fix that on, the last week of the season. But that's an amazing. I know I did not. I'll have to keep an eye out for that because, keep that bar low, Falcon fans.
Right.
Keep your expectations low. Because, they probably will lose this week. And I don't even know who they're playing. I'm just assuming they're going to lose because they just find ways to lose. It's amazing. All right. So we're not going to be on next week for those of y'all who joined in late. We're not going to be on next week, Christmas week, because I've got a family obligation. That's 2 days before Christmas. I know Bob's going to be swamped on the 23rd. And we're not going to do a show Christmas Eve or Christmas night. So we're just going to skip next week. We will try and be back for the week of New Year's Eve. I don't think there'll be any problems. I think Bob will be back to a normal schedule. Kind cousin Eddie and the rest of that crew will be back in the RV. My brother and his family, and I know they watch. That's why I'm saying this joke. But yeah, they're going to be back in North Dakota. They're coming in next week. So that's why the other reason why I can't be around. I'll have a lot of people in my house for Christmas. So in the meantime, Bob, I know Santa's going to come to your house. You get the bill, but Santa will be at your house.
Yes.
Santa doesn't come around me anymore because mine are too old, but he will one day. But in the meantime, everybody have a good Christmas. Bob, you have a great Christmas.
Thank you. You too.
Your little one, I know, will have a great Christmas. I'm sure it's going to be Avengers, Legos. I don't even know what they do anymore.
His Christmas list was all video games and LED lighting for his room. At 8.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. He's going to be 8. He's 8 this year.
He's 8. Yeah.
Oh man.
Most of the toys in his room have so much dust on them you can actually write your name on them. When he has friends come over to play, he wants to play video games with them. They want to play with the toys in his room because they're amazed. Avengers, especially, they're amazed at what he's got. So it's all a matter of perspective right now, I guess. But he's he had his official visit with Santa. I don't even know what day of the week this is, but it was sometime in the last few evenings. I knocked off of Jared a couple hours early. I think it was Monday. Knocked off of Jared a couple hours early and met he and the wife at the mall. Picked up our family Christmas ornament for the year that we always get designed. So he had his Santa visit. His elf on the shelf is creating mayhem all over the house every single night. That's been entertaining.
I'm so glad that didn't exist when I was a kid. When my kids were little too, because I have a perverted mind, and my daughter's Barbies would have been involved with that and Monopoly money and the blender and the paper towel holder. All of it. I would have done it all. My wife would have been aghast what I was doing with him. So there would have been, it puts the lotion on the skin or he gets the hose again situation with a bucket, that kind of stuff. So my mind goes. But video games, I remember those days. My son's still into video games, so I can believe it. When I was 8, my Christmas toy was the Evel Knievel stunt cycle. That I got that in 75, and that did it for me. I mean, I was out in the front yard of the house 7:00 Christmas morning. I opened that box up at 7:00. I'm running. I got tired of running up and down the house. I'm out in the street making it jump and things like that. So believe me, I got a picture of me with it, and I was not letting that go all day. That was the present. So, and then of course the video games happened to Matthew when he got to be about 10. So they get younger and younger now. Mm-hmm. Well, great. Well, guys, I know Mark, you asked this question real quick. Would we extend Brian Brzee or Alante Taylor? The problem with Brian Brzee, I think he's got another year left.
He does.
Before we have to extend him. So let's just hold off on him. Alante Taylor, I see a lot of people say they want him gone. I feel like you got to stick with him another year. I mean, I'm willing to extend him a couple of years. I'm not going to break the bank on him. I just feel like you really don't have anything behind him yet.
Right.
That's always been my thing. If you're going to get rid of somebody, you got to have somebody to take his place. So
and I think that's what's going to be the issue. They want to extend Olave first, but they like. I know the fans don't. I do. I like Alante. And I know Brandon Staley loves Alante Taylor. So I think that they're going to push hard to extend him before free agency hits, because if he gets to the market, they're not going to get into a bidding war for him. If Alante Taylor gets to the market, he's not going to be a Saint anymore. It's going to be the same scenario as Paulson Adebo last year, but they're going to push hard to extend him. By early mid-February is the goal there.
Yeah, and I think if Alante Taylor is going to be like Paulson Adebo, like Marcus Williams, that wants to see what his market value is before he agrees to a contract, then he will be gone, because that's just not going to that's not what they do. And I do want to hold on to him for a little bit longer. In the meantime, thank you, Bob, for joining me tonight. I was glad I was able to find one night this week.
Yeah, me too.
Everybody else, thank you guys. Enjoy the Jets game. Last Saints home game. They got Kyle Turley at this game.
Yes.
Which I think is hilarious.
Yes.
Of all games, for him to be the legend of the week, I hope he walks out there with a Jets helmet, because that would be perfect. That would be perfect. But yeah, Kyle Turley's the special guest, legend of the game for the Saints. He'll do the "Who Dat" chant, and I'll be at the game because it's the last game of the season. And then the following week we go to Tennessee. Then they'll end the season at Atlanta. So we will talk about this game, the Tennessee game next week. Hopefully, same time, Tuesday nights at 8:00 Central, 9:00 Eastern. In the meantime, Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope Santa's good to all of you. Tell Will Merry Christmas, even though Santa came a little early for him. Merry Christmas. Have fun. Enjoy every minute of it. And we'll see you next time under the dome. Good night, everybody.
Good night.